Hi folks, Pete Lane. Welcome to Blind Abilities and welcome to another installment in our series, iPhone 101. Let's get acquainted with voiceover gestures. As we previously mentioned, when VoiceOver is activated, all of the gestures change. There are quite a few VoiceOver gestures, which we will introduce to you in tiers. We'll begin with a few gestures that are absolutely necessary to begin navigating around your iPhone. These gestures are also necessary to help you set up a brand new iPhone. We'll follow this initial segment with our second tier, which will include all of the other VoiceOver gestures. But for now, let's review those basic gestures. First, the touch and slide gesture. Touch means that you touch the screen with a single finger. Whatever element or button on the screen is touched is read aloud. The slide gesture involves placing your finger on the screen and sliding it around without lifting it. As your finger passes over an element or a button, VoiceOver will read the name of that button or element aloud. Both gestures are used to explore the contents of a particular screen and are often referred to collectively as Explore by Touch. Second, a flick to the right. A flick is a very light, short gesture, usually used with the pad of the index finger, to flick from left to right as if you're flicking a bug. A flick to the left. Like the flick to the right, this is done lightly with the pad of the index finger flicking from right to left. And finally, a single finger double tap. With this, you use a single finger, usually your index finger, and tap the screen very lightly and fairly quickly. So now let's explore the touch and slide gestures. I have an iPhone 6 and I'm on my home screen, so let me perform that first action. Touch. I'll just touch toward the middle of the screen.
iTunes Store. Double tap to open. Swipe up or down to select a custom action, then double tap to activate.
We heard a lot right there, but the name of the app is the iTunes Store. Now I'll touch elsewhere. I'll see if I can touch up toward the top left and see if I can grab the first app that's in the top row of my home screen.
Settings. Double tap to open. Swipe up or down to select a custom action, then double tap to activate.
And that first app on the top row, all the way over to the left, is my Settings app. So as you heard, by touching the screen, VoiceOver will read the element, in this case, the name of the app where your finger touches. So let's take a closer look at the slide gesture. I'll try to touch the Settings app again, and this time, rather than removing my finger from the screen, I'll leave it on the screen.
Settings. Double tap to open. Actions available.
Good. Now I was able to touch my Settings app, and the tip of my finger is still resting on the screen. So now I will slide it to the right, and hopefully I can run across the top row of my apps on this particular home screen. So I will slide to the right, keeping my finger on the screen.
App Store. Double tap to open. Actions available.
App Store is the next app in that row. I'll slide again to the right.
News. Double tap to open. Actions available.
And News is the third app. I'll slide a little bit more to the right.
Contacts. Double tap to open. Actions available.
And that happens to be the fourth app in the top row. And each row has only 4 apps. So I can't slide any further to the right. So let's see if I can slide straight down and get to the last app in the second row.
Stocks. Double tap to open. Actions available.
Stocks it is. Now I'll slide back to the left, keeping my finger on the screen.
Clock. 3:04 p.m. Double tap to open. Actions available.
That's my clock app. Continuing to the left.
Messenger. Double tap to open. Actions available.
This is my Facebook Messenger app, and I'll continue to slide to the left.
Weather. Double tap to open. Actions available.
And that is the fourth app in that row. When we get to our flicking gestures, you'll see in a little bit more logical sequence, once again, how those apps are lined up. But for purposes of this demonstration, I'll now slide all over the screen to demonstrate the Explore by Touch method. So once again, I'll touch on the screen anywhere.
App Store. Double tap to open. Actions available.
Now as I slide around the screen,
News. Clock. Camera. News 100 in iTunes Store.
now notice the clicking noise. That's the sound that VoiceOver will make when you're not on a particular element or a button, or in this case, an app. That's just telling you that your finger is still on the screen and you're sliding around the screen, but you're not on any discernible element. There's that clicking sound again. But if I continue to swipe up and down and sideways and at an angle,
News 104. Notes. Camera. photography folder, to reminders.
So there we are. These are the touch and slide gestures, also known as Explore by Touch. Next, let's explore our flick gestures. First, we have our flick to the right. Now remember that the flick gesture is done with a single finger, generally your index finger, touching the screen very quickly and very lightly, flicking to the right as if you're flicking a bug. I'll demonstrate now.
App Store. Double tap to open. Actions available.
I touch the screen very quickly, just flicking with a short flick to the right. I'll do it again.
News. Double tap to open. Actions available.
And again.
Contacts. Double tap to open. Actions available. Weather. Double tap to open. Actions available.
As you hear, when you flick from one element to the next, you'll hear a clicking sound. Now, if you recall, our weather app, which is where I'm sitting now, was the last app in the top row on my screen, the fourth and last app. So listen very carefully as I flick one more time. My flick will take me to the next row down, but to the farthest app on the left. And there is a slightly different sound that we'll hear when we switch from one row to the next. So I'll flick right now, listen to the sound.
Messenger. Double tap to open. Actions available.
Hard to discern, but it was a slightly different sound. I'll continue to flick to the right.
Clock. 3:09 p.m.
And I'll do so quicker now.
Calendar. Photography folder. Camera. Notes. FaceTime. Reminders. iTunes Store. News 100 and page 206. Adjustable.
You'll need to practice this in order to get the hang of it. And I guarantee that with practice will come an increased comfort level. So you might want to turn off this demonstration right now and practice flicking to your right. You can do this anywhere on your screen. Just touch, and when VoiceOver speaks the name of the element, then just start flicking to the right. Be very careful that nothing else touches the front of your screen. For example, don't let your sleeve touch the screen, or the palm of your hand, or another finger. This will draw your focus away from the particular element where you're trying to flick. You should also know that it's fine to flick anywhere on the screen, regardless of where your focus is. For example, your focus may be in the top left, such as on my Settings app on my home screen. You don't need to flick or touch that particular area of the screen in order to perform your action. You can flick anywhere on the screen and your focus will move from that element to the next. Our next gesture will be another flick, this time to the left. As you recall, I left off with
page 206. Adjustable. Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
This is a page picker, and as you heard VoiceOver tell you, if you flick up or down, you can go up or down the pages of your home screen. But I want to go back to the left. So once again, I will lightly flick across the screen, just barely touching it. And this does not have to be a long gesture, just a very short, quick, and light gesture with the pad of my index finger. And I will flick to the left, meaning I will start on the right and move it toward the left.
News 104.5. Double tap to open. Actions available.
And again.
iTunes Store. Double tap to open. Actions available.
And again.
Reminders. Double tap to open. Actions available.
Your flick to the left is similar to your flick to the right, with the one difference that you're moving in a different direction. The result is the opposite of your right flick as well. When you're flicking to the right, you're advancing your focus either from left to right or, as we demonstrated a moment ago, down the screen. As I continue to flick to the left, my focus will move from right to left and will go back up the screen as I get to the end of a row. And I'll do so now very quickly.
FaceTime. Notes. Camera. Photography folder. Messenger. Weather. Contacts. News. App Store. Settings. Double tap to open. Actions available.
Now, once again, I'm at the top left element, the top left app on my home screen, which is Settings. Now, another sound that you should become familiar with, I call it the bonk. You'll hear the bonk when you reach the end of your screen. In this case, I am at the uppermost portion of my home screen, all the way to the left. So if I flick to the left, I can't go any further. Thus, I hear
Settings. Double tap to open.
VoiceOver will repeat the name of the element, in this case, Settings, but it will also offer that bonk. This will happen also when you're at the bottom of the list, or the bottom of the screen, or at the top of a list, or in the upper leftmost position on your screen. Our next gesture is the single finger double tap. As it says, this is performed with a single finger, generally your index finger, and it's accomplished by tapping the screen twice fairly quickly. I'll tap on my desk just to give you a feel. I'll tap on my desk right now. That's the speed of my single finger double tap. This action will activate an element, open an app, or press a button. In this case, I'm sitting on my Settings app, If I perform my single finger double tap, I will open the Settings app and I'll be placed on the top of the Settings main screen. Let me demonstrate. Here's my single finger double tap.
Settings.
Now the first thing we want to note is the sound. Voiceover is an audible feature, so we heard a distinct click when the action was taken. In this case, when the Settings app opened, you heard a high-pitched double click. So there we have it. These are our basic gestures that are absolutely critical to your fundamental navigation on your iPhone. These too will be necessary if you purchase your new iPhone and have to go through the setup process. I can't stress enough how important practice will be in mastering these gestures. Remember that your flicking gestures, whether it's the right flick or the left flick, have to be precisely to the left or to the right. If you flick up or down or at an angle, the gesture will not work properly. So practice with your directional gestures and with the sensitivity of the touch. The iPhone screen is extremely sensitive and the light touch is key to your success. I recommend practicing these gestures with your phone on a stable flat surface such as a desk or a countertop or a table, and that your arm and your hand are resting comfortably rather than hovering over the phone. I hope that this demonstration has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions for additional topics for our iPhone 101 series, don't hesitate to reach out to us by sending an email to info@blindabilities.com. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day. Join Blind Abilities and our new series, iPhone 101, as we help you make that decision to buy your first iPhone, as we answer those pressing questions about which device to buy and where to buy it, and as we help you with the transition of learning to use VoiceOver and master the iPhone as a blind user. Where do you go to find those answers? Who do you turn to for help? Blind Abilities presents a new series, iPhone 101. We'll provide the answers. We'll be here to help.